You've been tired lately, not just normal tired, a different kind of tired. Heavy, persistent, the kind that sleep doesn't fix. You've probably told yourself it's stress or aging or just one of those phases. But I need you to stop and hear this. That feeling, that specific, unusual fatigue, is the number one warning sign the heart sends before a heart attack. And it goes ignored almost every single time. I'm Dr. Hayes Anderson, and after 22 years in senior health, I've seen firsthand what happens when the heart's earliest warnings are written off as something less. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what this warning sign looks and feels like, why your body sends it, and 4 other signals your heart is sending that almost no one takes seriously until it's too late. By the end of this video, you'll know what to watch for in yourself and in the people you love. And this knowledge may be the difference between having a warning and having an emergency. Here's what most people are never told. A heart attack doesn't just happen out of nowhere. In the days, weeks, sometimes even months before the event, the heart is already under strain. It's already fighting. And it is sending messages through your body, through your symptoms, through the way you feel, that something is wrong. The problem is that medical appointments are short. Emergency symptoms get all the attention. And the subtle early signals, the ones that could actually save your life if you caught them in time, barely get a mention. I've had patients who came to me after surviving a heart attack and described exactly the symptoms they had felt for weeks before. Symptoms they had mentioned to someone and been reassured were nothing. This isn't rare. Research has consistently shown that more than half of heart attack patients experienced warning symptoms in the weeks leading up to the event. They just didn't know what they were looking at. Let me tell you about Frank. He was 67 years old, a retired electrician from Ohio. Active, stubborn in the best way, the kind of man who mowed his own lawn and refused to ask for help carrying groceries. He came to see me because his wife made him, not because he thought anything was wrong, but because she had noticed something. She told me Frank had been off for about 3 weeks. He wasn't sick. He didn't have a fever. He was just exhausted in a way that wasn't like him. He'd sit down after dinner and be asleep within minutes. He'd wake up and still feel worn out. He told me his energy felt like a phone that couldn't hold a charge anymore. Frank assumed it was age. He was, in his words, just getting older. We ran some tests. Within 10 days of that appointment, Frank had a major cardiac event. He survived. But here's what I need you to understand. That exhaustion he described wasn't aging. It was his heart. The number one warning sign your heart sends before a heart attack is unusual, unexplained fatigue. Not ordinary tiredness. Not the kind that comes from a busy day or a poor night's sleep. This is fatigue that arrives without a clear cause. It sits in your chest and your limbs. It doesn't lift after rest. People describe it as heaviness, as fog, as running on empty despite doing almost nothing. And the reason this happens is this. When one or more of your coronary arteries, the vessels that supply blood to the heart muscle itself, become significantly narrowed by plaque, your heart starts working much harder just to maintain normal circulation. That extra strain exhausts your entire system. Your muscles get less oxygen. Your body pulls energy away from everything non-essential. And the result is a deep, persistent fatigue that is fundamentally different from being simply tired. The key question to ask yourself is this. Is this fatigue familiar, or is it new? Is this how you normally feel, or does something feel different from your baseline? If the answer is that something has shifted, that you felt unusually drained in a way that doesn't have an obvious explanation, that deserves immediate attention. Not next week. Not when it gets worse. Now. But stay with me because fatigue is only one piece of what your heart is trying to communicate. And the next warning sign is one of the most commonly mistaken for something else entirely. The second warning sign is discomfort in places that seem completely unrelated to the heart. Jaw pain, neck tightness, pressure in the left shoulder, an ache running down one arm, pain between the shoulder blades that comes and goes. These symptoms confuse people because they don't point at the chest. They don't look the way a heart problem is supposed to look. So people attribute them to a sore muscle, a pinched nerve, tension from stress, and they move on. Let me tell you about Carol. She was 72 years old, a retired school teacher and grandmother of 5. She had been having what she described as a nagging ache in her left jaw for about 2 weeks. She'd already been to her dentist, who found nothing. She was scheduled with her regular doctor, but hadn't gone yet because it didn't seem urgent, just annoying. A week before her appointment, Carol had a heart attack. When I spoke with her during her recovery, she told me she had also been unusually tired, sleeping more than normal, and had woken up twice in the night feeling vaguely uncomfortable. Not in pain, just unsettled, like something was off, but she couldn't name it. Carol had been sending all the signals. She just didn't have the map to read them. The reason pain appears in the jaw, neck, shoulder, and arm before a heart attack is something called referred pain. Your heart and these body regions share nerve pathways. When the heart is in distress, the brain can misread the signal and interpret it as coming from the arm, the jaw, or the neck instead. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a genuine neurological phenomenon, and it is more common in women over 60 than most people realize. Now here's where I want you to pay close attention, because the third warning sign is one that people almost universally dismiss. The third signal is shortness of breath that occurs without obvious physical effort. You walk to the kitchen, you stand up from a chair, you climb one flight of stairs, and suddenly you're catching your breath in a way that seems disproportionate to what you just did. You weren't running, you weren't carrying anything heavy, you were just moving through your normal life, and your lungs needed more time than usual to recover. For most people over 60, this gets folded into the category of just getting older. But it's not always aging. When the heart is struggling to pump efficiently, the body simply cannot meet its oxygen demand during even light activity. The body responds by breathing faster, harder, and longer than the situation warrants. This is why I always ask patients specifically, has your breathing changed? Not your health overall, just your breathing in the last few weeks. The answer, when it's yes, matters more than most people know. The fourth warning sign tends to arrive at night, and it's particularly easy to overlook. It's sleep disruption, specifically waking in the early hours of the morning feeling unsettled, anxious, or vaguely unwell without a clear reason. Not needing the bathroom, not a bad dream, just a sense of unease that pulls you out of sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning. Some patients describe it as a low-level restlessness. Others describe a pounding in their chest that only lasts a moment. Others simply say they woke up and something felt wrong, but they couldn't explain why. In cardiac medicine, these nighttime disturbances are well documented. They're related to the heart's reduced capacity to handle the changes in circulation that occur during sleep. Shifts in blood pressure, changes in heart rate, and increased demands on an already strained system. The heart, unable to manage quietly, wakes the body. Raymond was 64 years old, a former teacher, recently retired. He'd been waking up around 3 in the morning for about a month. Not every night, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. He'd get up, have some water, feel fine within a few minutes, and go back to sleep. He mentioned it to his wife, but not to his doctor because it seemed too small, too vague, too hard to explain. Raymond had a heart attack 5 weeks after those disruptions began. He recovered fully, but he told me afterward, "I thought it was nothing. I didn't know that was my heart knocking." The fifth warning sign ties all the others together, and it's the one I want you to carry with you out of this video. It's the combination effect, not one symptom in isolation, but 2 or 3 of these signals appearing in the same window of time. Unusual fatigue plus jaw or shoulder discomfort plus sleep disruption. Shortness of breath plus persistent heaviness plus a quiet, nagging sense that something is off. The heart rarely sends just one message. It sends a pattern. And that pattern, when you know what you're looking for, is unmistakable. Here is the hardest truth I know about preventable cardiac events. The people who ignore these signals are not reckless or careless. They are the same men and women who spent their lives putting their health last, taking care of everyone else, pushing through discomfort, not wanting to make a fuss. But the heart does not reward endurance the way we wish it would. It rewards attention. None of these warning signs feel like an emergency. That is exactly what makes them so dangerous. They feel manageable. They feel explainable. They feel like something you can deal with later. But later is the one thing a failing heart cannot always give you. What I want you to hear is this: you are not powerless. You are never powerless when you have information. These signals exist because your body is trying to protect you. Your only job is to listen. So let's make this actionable. Here is what I want you to do starting today. First, do an honest self-check right now. Have you felt unusually fatigued in the last 2 to 4 weeks? Not regular tired, but something heavier and different. Write it down if so. Second, take note of any discomfort in your jaw, left arm, neck, or between your shoulder blades that doesn't have a clear muscular explanation. Don't dismiss it. Flag it. Third, pay attention to your breathing over the next few days. If you notice shortness of breath during light activity that seems disproportionate, that is information worth bringing to your doctor. Fourth, keep a simple log of your sleep for 1 week. Are you waking at unusual hours, feeling unsettled, or with a brief pounding sensation? Note the time and what woke you. And fifth, if you are experiencing 2 or more of these signals right now, call your doctor today. Not tomorrow, not after the weekend, today. Tell them specifically, "I'm experiencing unusual fatigue, and I want to rule out cardiac causes." Those exact words will get the right test ordered. The heart gives warnings, not always loudly, not always in ways we expect, but it gives them. And in 22 years of working with older adults, the patients I worry most about are not the ones who called too soon. They are the ones who waited just a little too long. If this video made you think differently about how your body has been feeling lately, I want you to do one thing before you move on. Share it with your spouse, a sibling, a friend you care about. The warning signs we talked about today are exactly the kind of information that people share after something goes wrong and say, "I wish I had known this sooner." Share it now, before it becomes that conversation. Which of these 5 warning signs surprised you the most? Or have you experienced one recently without realizing what it might mean? Tell me in the comments. I read every one of them. And if you want to understand what's happening beneath the surface, the slow, silent process that sets the stage for cardiac events long before symptoms ever appear, my next video goes deep into chronic inflammation and why it may be the most underestimated threat to your heart that almost no one is talking about.